Imagine walking through the Skoda works at Pilsen in the spring of 1945. The Reich that ordered these machines no longer exists, its flag no longer flying over the factory gates, yet rows of half-finished tank destroyers still sit on their jigs, welders' torches cold, hulls stamped with markings from a government that surrendered weeks earlier. Soviet officers now walk the factory floor with clipboards, counting hulls that were never meant to outlive the war that built them. Most people who know military history know exactly what the Jagdpanzer 38, the machine soldiers nicknamed the Hetzer, did during the war. What almost nobody knows is what happened next. 158 of these machines were finished after the surrender, not for Germany, but for a country that had stayed neutral through the entire conflict, Switzerland. The Jagdpanzer 38 was built on the chassis of the pre-war Czech LTV's 38 light tank, mounting a 75mm gun in a low, sloped fixed casemate instead of a turret. Over 2,800 were built for the German war machine, becoming one of the most numerous tank destroyers of the war's final year on both the eastern and western fronts. When Germany collapsed, the factories that built it did not go silent overnight. Skoda's production lines in newly liberated Czechoslovakia were still full of unfinished hulls, and Soviet auditors who inspected the plant found roughly 1,200 unfinished chassis, though only a fraction had the parts, and critically the guns needed to finish them. In the first months after the surrender, the story of these vehicles is one of limbo, factory yards stacked with turretless hulls, gun mounts empty, hatches unlatched, waiting for a decision no one had yet made. Czechoslovakia, now under a new government, faced a strange inheritance, an industrial base built to fuel the German war machine, sitting idle. Rather than scrap the unfinished stock, officials saw an opportunity. If the parts existed and a buyer existed who would pay in hard currency, the vehicles could simply be completed. That buyer turned out to be Switzerland, whose army had already tested a captured Hetzer among a range of German armor at the end of the war, and been impressed by its low cost and effectiveness. Negotiations were finalized in 1946, and the vehicles built for Switzerland were given the internal designation G13, dropping the Jagdpanzer 38 and Hetzer names entirely from official Swiss documentation. The first batch, just 8 vehicles, arrived by rail in December 1946, entering a country whose neutrality had kept it untouched by the very war that built them. The bulk of the order followed through 1947, with final units delivered as late as 1949 or 1950. Here is where this story breaks from almost every other piece of German wartime hardware. There was no mass scrapping, no rows of crushed steel cubes, no scrapyard fires consuming these hulls in 1945 or 1946. Unlike the tens of thousands of German tanks bulldozed or melted down across occupied Europe, these 158 machines were spared that fate before they even had the chance to face it. They were finished, not destroyed. But that does not mean they emerged unchanged. Because Switzerland was building them from leftover wartime stock, many G13 carry components stamped with Third Reich parts markings hidden inside hulls that would go on to serve a neutral nation for the next 25 years. And persistent accounts suggest some hull sections may even have originated from partially built vehicles recovered from battlefield sites and remanufactured before sale. The Swiss modified the design substantially. The original German gun could no longer be sourced, so Skoda fitted a 75mm Stuke 40 gun with a distinctive muzzle brake never seen on wartime Hetzers, swapped the commander's and loader's crew positions, added a rear-deck machine gun mount and a field telephone for infantry communication, and by the early 1950s replaced roughly 2/3 of the fleet's original engines with Swiss-built Saurer diesels. For nearly a quarter of a century, these machines lived a second life almost nobody outside Switzerland ever saw, tucked into alpine defensive positions as part of Switzerland's doctrine of armed neutrality, training alongside conscripts and rolling through steel parades, ready for a war that never came for them. They were never fired in anger, their entire operational life one of readiness without combat. By the early 1970s, as the Swiss Army began replacing its aging fleet with British-built Centurion tanks, the G13S were formally retired between 1970 and 1972, and that is where the story takes its strangest turn. When the Swiss Army finished with the fleet, it sold the vehicles rather than scrapping them to museums, private collectors, and militaria dealers across Europe and beyond. Because the G13 so closely resembled the original wartime Hetzer, buyers began quietly reversing the very modifications the Swiss had added decades earlier, unbolting muzzle brakes, swapping crew positions back, stripping away rear machine gun mounts, all to make a late 1940s Czechoslovak-built vehicle look exactly like a 1944 German war machine. These converted G13S were then sold as genuine wartime Hetzers. The deception was so widespread that today, of the surviving vehicles worldwide, only a small handful, often cited as around 13, are believed to be genuine wartime-built German Hetzers. The overwhelming majority on public display in museums across Europe, North America, and Australia are these post-war Swiss G13S in disguise. The tank destroyer sitting outside the Bayeux Memorial Museum of the Battle of Normandy in France, a museum dedicated to the D-Day landings, is almost certainly a converted Swiss G13, despite the wartime Jagdpanzer 38 never even seeing combat during the Normandy campaign, since it didn't enter frontline service until July 1944. Sharp-eyed historians have learned to spot the fakes by the threading left behind where a Swiss muzzle brake was unscrewed, and some museums, aware of this tell, have gone as far as swapping in entirely new gun barrels to erase the evidence of a vehicle's true post-war origin. Underneath all of this sits a quiet irony. A machine built to fuel Nazi Germany's final defense, finished under a new Czechoslovak government, sold to a nation that never fought in the war at all, spent its operational life defending Swiss neutrality, and then in retirement was dressed up to impersonate the very conflict it never fought in. Today, examples of the Swiss G13 sit scattered across the world in institutions that may not fully advertise their true identity. The Panzer Museum in Thaun, Switzerland, and the Schweizerisches Militärmuseum in Völl-Royenthal hold genuine examples honestly labelled in their authentic Swiss configuration. Beyond Switzerland, converted G13S sit in the collections of the Tank Museum at Bovington, the U.S. Army Ordnance Museum in Virginia, the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum in Cairns, and numerous private collections restored to running condition. Some remain unapologetically what they are, post-war diesel-engined, muzzle-braked survivors of a strange Cold War inheritance. Others still wear their false wartime German identity, quietly misleading visitors who have no idea they are looking at a machine that never once crossed a real Second World War battlefield. In the end, the fate of these 158 machines is not a story of destruction, but of disguise layered on disguise, built for one war, finished by the survivors of that war, sold to a nation that stayed outside it, and reshaped once more to look like something it never was.